Welcome to today's edition of Mainstream with Harpreet Singh Toor. आप सबनु प्यार भरी सत श्री अकाल, नमस्कार, आदाब and shalom. I definitely will have, I do have a guest with me. I will introduce him later on in the show. But there are a few things which I want to talk about before, we go there. Remember, you can always email me, send me an email. You can call me 516-448-8722 or text me with your opinion, questions, or anything, whatever you want to discuss. And I will be more than happy to do that. We all know that the elections are going on back home in India. Okay, I understand that logistically, the number of people who are voting and everything, different stages. Even though I don't personally believe that it needed to be done in 7 stages, but then again, there are things which we can't control. We don't know. I don't know the details behind that. So if they are doing in 7 staggered stages, that is, it can be beneficial to somebody, and it could be, a negative to some other people. But 2-3 things which I want to talk about today is, one, Arvind Kejriwal was given a bail from the Tihar jail. Interestingly, he was arrested right before, when the elections were declared. Okay, the government definitely wanted him to be behind the bars. And when you look at the politics, Kejriwal is one who in Delhi/New Delhi was able to, win the election after election, have his government formed, even though the center did everything to let him not form the government, or whatever they wanted, they could have done, they did it. For example, in Chandigarh, Punjab, even though AAP won the maximum number of the councillors, the government did the returning officer with the blessings of people in the top. He cheated, and they installed a mayor from BJP, even though they did not have enough seats to do that. And Aam Aadmi Party went to the court, and as soon as they went to the court, the elected mayor of BJP, the Bharatiya Janata Party, resigned, and now we have a mayor from Aam Aadmi Party in Chandigarh. Same way they tried to do everything in Delhi/New Delhi. There is one factor which a lot of people, they don't know, that in Delhi you do have a chief minister, but you do not have the right on every department. The police is under the federal government, which means Bharatiya Janata Party/BJP. The governor actually is appointed by the government in the center, and that happens to be a BJP gentleman. So he did everything to stop implementation or delay implementation, whichever way he can, just to make Aam Aadmi Party look good, look bad. Now the question for me, I understand politics is politics is politics. This is why people get turned off from politics, because people will not take a stand, they will not talk about it. And number 3, and which is most important, that they will not say that, okay, if you are in opposition, you wanted a neat and clean everything, but once you are in power, you go in reverse order and you do same thing what was being done before, or whatever you were claiming that was being done before. And it is, I'm not saying it was not being done before, it was being done before also, but how you are different than the other ones, you are even worse than the other ones, because at least there was a freedom of press. It's not there, and we have a prime minister who hasn't done a single press conference in 10 years of his prime ministership. When G20 took place in India, not a single press conference was held, and JUS President Joe Biden, when he went to India, Nobody was allowed to have a press conference or answer the questions. As soon as he landed in Thailand after that, his first press conference, he complained about not having a press conference at the end of G20. It does not end here. Now, from 400, which was like, I still remember, when Prime Minister Modi said that he has the chest of 56 inches, I don't see where it is. A person who cannot face the press, or who will not allow the press to have freedom of speech and writing, how he can claim that he has really he is a man, if I may say so. Now, interestingly, before the election, during the election, he was talking against the Muslims day and night. He was calling them the dirty blood, he was calling them the invaders, he was calling them to leave the country, blah, blah, blah. Now, all of a sudden, in Haryana, which is next to Punjab, right here, the Chief Minister of Haryana, Mr. Saini, actually, went and he, Hassan Khan Mawati, he was one of the, king in part of Haryana. Mewat is Mewad, actually, that's what we call it in Punjabi. He was a king of that kingdom, and apparently when the Britishers were coming in, he was also one of them who actually literally tried to fight with them and retain his kingdom. And they actually unveiled his statue. Now, talk about it. Till day 4 yesterday, Monday was the election voting. Till then, they were doing everything, including in Andhra Pradesh, Madhvi Latha, who actually is a BJP candidate in Andhra Pradesh. She literally, physically asked Muslim women to check their ID and everything, and a case has been booked against her. And now all of a sudden, when they see that, okay, they are not going to gain the seats they were thinking they will gain or they will get, so all of a sudden, they are changing the tune. Now all of a sudden, in Haryana, the Muslims are their friends. And I can bet my life, in Punjab also, the Sikhs are going to be their friends, like the Prime Minister did go to Patna Sahib, Gurdwara, the Takht of Patna Sahib. And it is the same Prime Minister who actually did everything to not to open Kartarpur Sahib corridor. It was actually on the Pakistan side, Imran Khan, who literally did everything on Pakistan side, and the Indian government, including the then Congress Chief Minister of Punjab, Amarinder Singh, was forced to actually literally oblige the community by doing their side of the Punjab, so that the Sikhs can go visit Nankana Sahib and come back, go there in the morning and come back. So he did that, and lo and behold, because there was election, they were voting in Bihar, in Patna Sahib, that's where one of the Takht is. So what happened? Prime Minister went there, put on the turban, did serve langar, did make rotis. That is fine. We love that. But that is also what I call is, sentiments and sentimental blackmail of the community. I'm pretty sure there are people who are going to be like, oh, well, look at that, he did that. So, yeah, there may be issues, there could be issues, but let us, give him some votes and this and that can definitely change some dynamics on the ground. So that's those are the kind of things which we need to look at and we need to be careful about. And that is something which I wanted to talk to you about, before I introduce the guest which I have. The guest actually, he's not, anybody who is new. He has been here before. You guys, those who are watching my show, they know about him. They have seen him. And we are really good friends. And today I'm going to play a little bit devil's advocate when it will come down to the show. And we are going to talk about what is happening in the Middle East. And this friend of mine who is today here with me, his name is Charlie. Charlie, thanks for coming in. Zelban, yeah, that's for, I'm leaving it for you to say.
Okay.
So Charlie Zelban is, my friend who is going to be, and we are going to discuss about, a little bit about world politics, but first we are going to talk about, what is happening in Gaza and Israel, what is happening, what happened, and how this whole thing, where we are today as compared to, I think, the First World War, right? The Britishers when the Palestinian state was, right? So we're talking about 100 years of brushing up the thing. So let us take a little break here. And after the break, we are going to dive directly into that conversation with what is happening on the ground. And before that, I'm going to add one more thing, okay? What Hamas did, that was horrible, no doubt about it. But now, what the government is doing over there, do they really have the ground to do that? Just because they want to punish a group which the government may have propped up itself at one point. Because in 2005, I think that's when Hamas won the elections in Gaza. And George W. Bush at that time, knowing that Hamas will win the elections, did not object to it. They let the Hamas form the government and everything. And since then, Hamas actually was in control of Gaza, which is part of, I don't know whether it will happen or not, the so-called Palestinian state, West Bank and Gaza. And not only that, that Hamas was able to push away the Palestinian Authority, which, actually was created by Yasser Arafat before he died. And, first of all, give me a little brief history about creation of Israel. I know it was created in 1948 on the map, okay? But to reach to that point where Israel was, by the world powers, recognized that, okay, this area is Israel and it belongs to the Jews.
Well, it's interesting because there's a parallel to what happened in India and what was going on in the Middle East at that time. That there was a movement to partition the the Muslim population of India wanted to partition from India. And that was a movement that was pushed through. So you had the physical separation between Pakistan and India there, and something similar was going on in the Middle East, in Palestine, because you had two populations, an Arab and Jewish population, and it was also governed by the British at the same time. And so as the British imperialistic powers were waning, they also decided that the best solution was to partition off Palestine, and which is where the United Nations came in and established a partition. Now, unfortunately, what happened was Israel, they agreed to the partition, but the other Arab countries did not. So immediately a state of war happened. And what happened, I think it was about 2 years of fighting, and there was finally a ceasefire, that Israel actually gained more territory during that ceasefire whereas the Arab countries thought they'd be able to push the Jewish population into the sea, but that didn't happen. And then we progress. Okay, then there was Israel joined Britain and France to try to take over the Suez Canal, and that didn't happen. That was in 1956. 1967, there was another big war, the Six-Day War, where
Yom Kippur War.
No,
right?
that came in 73.
Oh, that's 73.
Yeah,
okay.
this is the Six-Day War,
Uh-huh.
which Egypt was making, which was trying to organize their forces, and Israel struck first. So Israel wound up taking the Sinai and parts and the West Bank, and I believe the Golan Heights there, but
So
I could be wrong.
that is the 1978.
That's 1967.
No, 1978 treaty with Israel between Egypt and Israel
Gave back to
gave
Sinai.
back Sinai, right?
Right.
Sinai.
Yeah, and then
Peninsula.
1973, Egypt, or it might be Syria, but they attacked on the Jewish holiday of Yom Kippur, and they fought, and they're almost successful, but the Israeli army did push back the Arab armies. I think as a result of that war, Golda Meir resigned. And that was pretty close to when the labor control of labor government started to shake, and you had Menachem Begin come in as the Likud party, and he was the one who negotiated the peace with through Jimmy Carter with Anwar Sadat. And then you had other disturbances going on, and then you had the Intifada happen in the spring of 1987. I'm trying to think about and then also when Bill Clinton came in as president, he tried to get Yasser Arafat and the Israelis to agree to a peace treaty where they would trade territory, and it came very close, except Yasser Arafat said no. He withdrew at the last minute. They were in Camp David. So then that leads you up to where Israel was in Gaza.
Okay, before
until 2005.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
What was the reason that Yasser Arafat withdrew? Any detail on that?
I think I'm not really sure.
A lot of things is not even in the open yet.
Yeah, I'm not really sure.
Because
but
those are top secret files.
I think I could be wrong with this, but I think he felt that if he agreed to it, he'd be assassinated.
Well, he got assassinated anyway.
Anwar Sadat got assassinated, and so did. Why am I thinking about the Israeli Prime Minister that got Yitzhak
Shamir.
Shamir, yeah. He got assassinated. But then you lead up to 2005, where Israel occupied Gaza, and they made a deal, and they completely withdrew. They withdrew the army. They withdrew settlers. I believe they even dug up cemeteries and took out, and turned it over to the Palestinian Authority. And you were mentioning about the election. And so Hamas won the election and then proceeded to kill off all of its opponents. So they've maintained an iron control over the population there. And I don't know if you read the New York Times article that came out today about how they've been surveilling the entire population.
Well, it's interesting.
It's an authoritarian rule.
Well, that is true.
And a terrorist organization.
That is true. But at the same time, when you look at few things, we also get monitored all the time. So
yes. Yeah, but it's how do you deal?
But how you use it, that's where the difference comes in.
How do you deal with the information?
Yeah, exactly. So that's why, before I was talking about the elections in India and how the information and whatever they are using, that's the issue.
Now,
but
that leads on to the government of Israel with Bibi Netanyahu, and who has been in control for a long time. And he did not want to have a two-state solution.
Oh, he
tried to be very Machiavellian. Where he was trying to play off the Palestinian authorities against Hamas, and gave support. And when he was asked if Qatar or some other Arab countries should continue to support Hamas, they said yes. You know, so his strategic idea, his tactical ideas, his strategic idea was to keep the Palestinian population separated so there would be no peace treaty. And that way they can do what they want. And also,
And push more
I guess in
into
domestic
West
politics,
Bank.
the West Bank, you could keep the support of the settlers there and keep himself in power. Okay? But
And keep himself out of jail also.
right.
Let's not forget that part also, right?
No,
Yeah.
but I think his plan preceded his legal problems.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but the fact is that he's had total miscalculation. So I'm not saying that the Israeli government is correct in its assumptions right now, but the attack really threw up everything up in the air and changed things around. Because then it became, Hamas became untenable to be, and they're not a negotiating partner because really it's disgusting what happened on October 7th. And that doesn't justify the indiscriminate bombing and killing of Palestinians. But right now, in terms of public relations, there is an imbalance in terms of how people consider this. And I think that's where we stand right now.
That's where we stand right now. Okay, now the question actually, you know, for me the question comes in, okay, two questions basically. Number one, the longer the war goes on, the longer Bibi will stay in power, right? Because he cannot get challenged. And that is one of his idea to stay out of the jail for corruption, you know. And number two, I don't see any end game, what he wants, because if there is nobody there to rule, okay, it's just a chaos. Unless it is like, you know, he wants to have Gaza actually, you know, part of Gaza, if not whole Gaza, to annex and make it part of Israel.
I don't think that that's in the cards because they could
Why
have
not?
they could have annexed it 20 years ago if they wanted to do that. My own opinion about this is that I don't disagree that Bibi Netanyahu wants to sees the opportunity is being opportunistic by extending extending the war to keep himself in power. I think the main motivation is to stay in power for that. But I don't think that is his. There is another aspect of extending the war, is that in order to get the hostages back, they can't unilaterally create a ceasefire without Hamas giving up something to get it. And right now, because of the politics going on globally, I don't believe Hamas feels any pressure to negotiate.
Well,
Because, let me just finish my
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
I think they feel that that because of these exterior forces, people demonstrating here, that they're pressing the international community to force Israel to compromise for them. So I don't think they are negotiating legitimately, because what I've read about, it seems that every time they get close, the goalposts move. They start shifting, or they say they don't have it.
well, that is something which I don't know. The reason is because if you really look at it, if Trump comes in, then what?
But that's taking a long view. That's 6 months from now. I'm talking about right now. And I was just getting to the other part of the piece. Now, I could be wrong with this, but if you look now, from what my understanding is, the Hamas leadership, most of it is out of Gaza, but there are some key people in the tunnels in Gaza right now, in Rafah. Okay? So if you're the Israeli government and you're trying to apply pressure to get the Hamas to concede point, they have to continue to fight. Because if they don't fight them, then Hamas is not going to feel any pressure.
Let's we have to take a break here. After the break, we will be right back because it's interesting, and I want to have a little bit more conversation about it before we deep dive into American politics. I'm hoping that you are having a serious thoughts about today's conversation, which is taking place here today with Charlie Zalman, and it's very interesting that how international politics also clashes right there in the Middle East, and it is not new. It has always been like that, and every time you think about something may change, it doesn't. And we should not also forget one thing, which I'm pretty sure Charlie, you also know about it, that Hamas actually attacked within a week of US and India and Saudi Arabia and Israel declaring that corridor.
Right.
Okay, so talk about that.
To compete against China and the Silk Road Initiative. And also because there was a lot of, there was press at that time about peace treaty between the Saudis, Israel, and the United States. And also, I believe, at the same time, Russia was not doing well in Ukraine. And I bring up Russia only because Hamas is a client of Russia, and also Iran and Russia are allied. Iran is supplying a lot of ammunition to Russia for the fight in Ukraine. So somebody I heard once say that coincidences take a lot of planning. That I can't imagine that Hamas staging their attack at that time was an inspired decision on their part and not directed by Russia and Iran to attack at that point, especially since the information that has come out is that they've been planning it for over a year.
Well, Iran, I don't know the reason, not because of any other permutation combination. The only reason I'm saying is because Iran and India, they always had a really good relationship after as far as current short period. But today, India signed a deal with Iran for shipping from Iran's port. Okay, so Iran has more interest in Middle East about Shia and Sunni issues and about Israel than the issue to disrupt. That's my take on that part of the deal. But Russia, maybe because got mad, India pulled out from one of the project which they were collaborating with, 5th generation fighter jet. And China, of course, being in direct competition with India, they also wanted something to divert the whole thing.
Well, isn't also India one of the largest customers of Russia for their oil?
Well, that is true.
That's the only revenue that Russia has right now.
Yeah.
And so they have to keep that flowing. So I don't think they want to be cut out.
I think it is more like China behind this, because that will directly challenge that the Silk Road project of China. What they have, bridge, road, rail, whatever it is.
Now I'm wondering if the response that Iran had to Israel about Israel killing one of their generals in Syria, and they released all those bombs, and then Israel fought back, had their own attack, and then everything quieted down. But I'm wondering if because China is dependent on Iranian oil, that maybe China might have told Iran to
Well, you know,
accept it.
there is another aspect into that. Okay, let us look into it. Okay, that you know, Quds forces, the Iranian, you know, security forces, right? Soleimani was assassinated at the instructions of Trump,
Right.
right? Okay, and Iran at that time did not do anything because they were like, we will
No,
respond
they did.
at their own
They
time.
bombed the air base.
Okay,
They bombed an army base or a military, U.S. military base, if
They-
you remember.
they-
There were about 100 soldiers who got.
they did it, but not the way they were talking about it.
Correct.
Okay, and they also created you know, issue in the see the Bay of Hormuz, right, for the shipping, you know, commercial shipping, because that's a tight neck right there, you know. So for me, when I'm looking at it, I'm looking at that Iran also probably wanted to send a message, even though Iran knows that directly it cannot, you know, get involved in a direct fight with Israel, because, you know, like everybody knows and believes that Israel does have atomic bombs. Okay, but it's not out anywhere.
Right.
Okay, so maybe because of those factors, they want to keep it to that extent. And also because of all these restrictions on the trade, Iran is not evolving or, you know, inventing the weaponry to the scale which will compete directly. But at the same time, look at this kamikaze style, you know, drones, which Iran is supplying to Russia. And now we are talking that
Right.
Middle East muddled in so many different factors,
Yep. Yep.
right?
Yep.
So if we look at that from that perspective, do you really think that this is, of course, this is a temporary truce, because from Lebanon, Hezbollah hasn't done anything yet.
Right.
Okay, again,
Well,
that's a Iranian proxy.
the Israelis moved 100,000 people away from the Lebanese
No,
border.
they have moved because they were expecting that something may happen.
And
on
they
that.
have been bombing.
You know,
But not significant, but just enough. They're
Just-
doing it by the border.
They are just doing it like, you know, you throw a firecracker just to, you know, distract the crowd or make them nervous, but
no,
not
I agree
really.
with some of it, but it's not insignificant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so when you really look at that, all that's happening there, and then it takes me back again to the end game in Gaza and how Palestinian Authority on the West Bank, how they are going to, you know, some semblance of the government, because Palestinian Authority, yeah, they are saying they are governing, but I don't know.
I mean, there's so many layers to the problem. I mean, one of the things, you know, that tactically what Bibi Netanyahu did was try to emaciate the leadership, Palestinian leadership. So the net result at the moment is that there's nobody to negotiate. So it's hard to have a political solution if you can't negotiate with anybody. So right now, the only other option is this military option, and that's not the solution to the problem. So
Military has never been a solution to any problem. You know, it is always at the table.
right.
You know, I was reading about that. I don't know if I have here or not. Yeah, this is something different. You know, about in July 1936, General Francisco Franco, you know, took over Spain, and he literally killed one of the poet. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because at the end of the day, it's the writings and the agreements at the table, not what happens in the field,
Right.
in the army, out there having the war.
Ultimately.
Ultimately.
But it doesn't mean that you can't have, and otherwise you have
Otherwise-
to have all-out war, and it still doesn't necessarily solve all the problems.
Yeah,
but it does give you control.
It gives you control, but also at the same time, it pushes the other party to come to the negotiating table.
Right.
Right? Okay. So now, looking from that perspective, do you see any shift in the ground in next 4 to 6 weeks in Gaza between Israel and Hamas?
I have, but I'm not sure. I'm a little not up to date. I mean, today, but there are a couple of. I'm looking at it as a chessboard, and I've seen a couple of pieces move, and it's all power negotiation, and you need a partner to negotiate, regardless of how tough they are. So right now, I haven't felt that Hamas has been an honest partner to negotiate anything, no matter how much prompting, because there's nobody pushing them to negotiate until now, because there are a couple of moves that I've seen being done, which I don't know if they'll actually happen, but I had heard that Israel built about a tent city for about 500,000 people, which to me says that they're trying to move refugees, Palestinians away from the south up to the north. Now, everybody knows that Hamas uses the Palestinian population as a shield. So if they don't have a shield, it puts a little more military pressure. They become a little more vulnerable. The other part of that chess piece is that the U.S. has finally finished that pier so that cargo ships can be delivering supplies. I heard it's an equivalent of they can do on a daily basis about 100 truckloads of materials. And if that is actually happening, then you have 500,000 people at the north end who are being supplied with food and medicine. All of a sudden, Hamas is a little more exposed.
So they have less power.
Right. So if Israel is applying military pressure on that, and I think if the Hamas leadership, which has been very careful not to get exposed themselves, then maybe that's enough pressure to start a negotiation towards a ceasefire.
And also,
but I don't know.
And also we should not forget the role which U.S. plays diplomatically in all these games. So let us take a break, and after the break, we are going to talk about American politics. It's very important because a lot of things are happening. Yes, even though I may not like to discuss Trump that much, but do I have a choice? No, I don't. So we are going in the final segment of today's show, and like I mentioned, we are going to discuss a little bit about American politics. Let us first talk about, because what happens, people look at the news, okay? And news is so much blanketed by, there's no more news anymore, okay? You put on CNN, it's Trump. You put on MSNBC, it is Trump. You put on Fox, it is Trump. You put on, there is another One News, whatever it is. One Max, whatever, it is Trump. So everybody is giving their twist to the story of Trump. But the things which are actually happening worldwide and which may affect the near and long-term future of the overall population of the world, including the Middle East, nobody's talking about it. The hunger going on in Sudan is not on the news anymore. Yemen war is not on the news anymore. Ukrainian war is not on the news anymore. And we can go on and on. But at the same time, Republicans, including Mike Johnson, who came in yesterday, did not go into the court, but outside
Today.
You know,
It's
give
today.
him the press. Yesterday or today?
Today.
Today. Okay.
This morning,
Yeah,
yeah.
this morning. So the question is, they withheld the aid to Ukraine for so long, and now the news just broke that Biden may give permission to Ukrainian, to President Zelensky and his army to use U.S. Army supplies to attack inside Russian territory. So far, what they were supplying, it was only limited in the scope that they can fire and use it only up to the border, not beyond that.
But the Ukrainians were not, I guess they were still using other weapons to get into
They were
Russia.
using, but they were also inventing a lot of new weaponry based on, it's like reverse engineering. Okay, and they have already, they have attacked some of the Russian oil storage facilities and stuff like that, because now they are hitting Russia where it hurts. So far they were not doing. Okay, but at the same time, Russia is actually population wise and area wise being such a huge country. Okay, they are doing so much, using so much weaponry against Ukraine. So 3 questions actually. Number one, Democrats propped up Mike Johnson, the speaker. Number 2, the part of Ukraine, would there be a deal? Number 3, if there is no deal, Russia definitely is going to go into other NATO territories. So,
Well,
in chronological order, give me your thoughts.
well, I think Hakeem Jeffries was being very strategic and tactically saying, okay, they'll support Mike Johnson as speaker, but Mike Johnson is aware that nothing's going to happen without the Democrats. And the Democrats, and Hakeem Jeffries is the person leading the Democrats. So that's that, okay, because there's still budgets and other things.
He's doing good.
Who, Hakeem Jeffries?
Oh yeah,
He's great. He's really great.
Yeah.
Great to follow Nancy Pelosi. Now, regarding Russia and the, I forgot what you were just saying about Ukraine.
If Russia takes over Ukraine, if there is no agreement to stop the war at somewhere.
Well, first of all, I don't think there'll be any agreement. I don't think
not till November elections anyway.
Right, but Ukraine is not ready to compromise their they've gone past that. I think it's going to be, they're going to fight to the last person. They're never going to surrender to Russia, never. And yes, Russia will have designs on, if they were to succeed, they will have designs on other European countries because they won't be able to be trusted. Which makes you go back, why were the Republicans so ardent about delaying the funding of Ukraine and Israel and also Taiwan? Why were they? How in bed are they with Russia? Because I believe that the same tactics are going to apply in 2024 for this election, presidential election, as happened in 2016 and 2020. Russia is going to try and manipulate
to bring in Donald Trump
and the
again.
Republicans feel like, hey, he's helping us, so that's fine. They have no scruples anymore. It's interesting. I always felt that the current state of the Republican, it doesn't surprise me that the Republicans are the way they are. But the current state of the Republicans is so bereft of any intellectual firepower that I felt that they were the sediment of whatever remained of intellectual political ideas. And then I was looking up in the dictionary, sediment, I was writing something, I wanted to see how you spell sediment. And oddly enough, the next word is sedition. I thought, how apropos that is. That
that's interesting.
Yeah, that the intellectuals, the current intellectuals of the Republican Party, which are not intellectuals, but they are seditionists.
I mean, look at J.D. Vance. Look at J.D. Vance. He wrote against Trump so much, even the book, he made so much money out of that, besides, his business, and now he is with him in the court and being his, surrogate giving the statement. So, it's just crazy. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
So we will have a lot of ups and downs till the elections. But at the same time, when the polls come out, I don't believe polls, because there are a couple of reasons, they look at the polls. I personally actually at one point after 2016, I think it was before COVID, I was in Washington, D.C., and there is a building which is the press building right there, next to Capitol Hill. There was some, lecture over there by, Chuck Todd and some other person. And at the end, I asked two questions there, but I spoke to one of the Democratic pollster, and I asked him, I said, how you were declaring that, Hillary will win if somebody like me, an idiot, can see that Trump is going to be the president? He was like, oh, well, we still got the maximum number of votes. I said, that does not answer my question. And he walked away. So same way, these polls which are happening, like, in 2022, everybody was saying there is going to be red wave, red wave, red wave. That never happened.
Well, here's what I feel is that, one, the press is selling information and they need to attract clicks. So that's one thing. Because one obvious thing that they seem to be passing up when they're promoting these polls as showing that Trump is in the lead in these battleground states, how do you reconcile the fact that in the primary votes, Trump is losing 20% of the votes to Nikki Haley, who isn't even running? That's hundreds of thousands of people who are Republicans, who they're saying in those polls that they're going to vote for Trump, but when they actually vote, they're not voting for Trump.
They're voting for
So where's something isn't adding up here.
Yeah, I know. I think our time is up today. We have to go. But it's really interesting, when you look deep dive into all these details and everything. And it always surprises me how much is out there which we don't know, which we may not be aware of, And I think next phase of voting in India is on May 25th. That's when New Delhi goes for voting, and then the gears will shift more into Punjab and other parts of India, and Haryana, I think, is also going to vote on 25th. But anyway, the bottom line is the information in today's world, even though it is the key, but it depends who is looking at the information and who is allowed to dissect that information and get it to you in the right form and right way, the way you can understand it and you can make some sense out of it. And that is at a premium right now as we talk about it, as we are going to go on talking about it. So having said that, till next time, good night and good luck.